What is going on, kings and queens of this wonderful wonderland that we call YouTube? Now, I don't normally do rant videos that often because I only do them when I feel the need to or when something really crawls under my skin. And today, something definitely has crawled very deep under my skin. And contrary to what the title of this video says, I am not pinning Final Fantasy against Kingdom Hearts to ask which is the better game. Nothing like that. This video actually goes out to the boys over there at Square Enix, who are the developers of both those franchises. And I'm calling them out for some of their business decisions regarding those two franchises. So I'm coming to you today not as an angry YouTuber, but also, more importantly, as an angry fan. So let's start on the Final Fantasy side of things, more specifically the Final Fantasy VII Remake side of things. Go back to E3 2015, last year's E3, the Square Enix showing, um, and one of their major announcements was a Final Fantasy VII remake. Everybody was happy about it. I was excited about it. It's a very, very good idea on paper. Um, Final Fantasy VII is arguably the most famous and the most respected of all the series. So to do a remake, very cool idea. But notice how I said it's a cool idea on paper. And this was because I lost interest in it when I found out how they were going to do it. And the way that they're planning on doing it, or at least the way that they were planning on doing it, was to do it as an episodic game. Now, for those of you that don't know what an episodic game is, it's a game that instead of bringing a game out entirely on a disc, it comes out periodically. Episodes or chapters come out every month or every 2 months or something like that until the game runs its course, which is a very cool and a very different thing to do. You see that with a lot of indie developers, specifically Telltale, do it with things like the Walking Dead game and Game of Thrones and Wolf Among Us. And for them, I don't have a problem. Because they're an indie game. They're the ones that kind of, that's what sets developers like Telltale apart in the indie game genre, is that's just their calling card. And I don't really know what the fab is for major titles deciding that they need to do this. And when I say that, I'm thinking of Square Enix again with their new Hitman game. I'm not really understanding why they did that, why they felt the need to do that. I guess it's cool to think about. It's a little bit different. And I guess for Hitman, I can see it working because, as a Hitman, you do contracts which come at you at any time. So I guess to have missions episodically come in like that, I guess it works. But see, what I don't understand is that, okay, it was released a couple months ago, specifically as an episodic game. And then they actually have a release date for the disc copy of this game being comes out in January of next year. Now, for an indie game like most of like Telltale's games, it works. I've come to know, that's how they work, that's how they operate. I like them for that. I don't like, what's the point of doing that when you're just going to bring the full game out on disc anyway. With an indie game, it's a little bit different. But, so, So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about Hitman. Now back to uh, Final Fantasy VII, the remake. The reason why they decided to do the episodic release, which I don't think works very well with a Final Fantasy game to begin with, but the reasoning for it was incredibly stupid. And that was because they felt like the PS4 couldn't handle um, a full game on a disc, which, if you ask me, that's total malarkey because let's look at, 1997. PS1 brought out the original um, Final Fantasy VII, which ran on 2 discs and worked absolutely fine. So you're telling me that the PS4 can't do what the PS1 could. And I have two major issues with that statement. Number one is a personal one, me being the nostalgic person that I am. When it comes to a remake like that, I would totally love to have it on 2 discs like the original one. That's just me. The second one is kind of two thoughts. The first part being the the idea that the PS4 couldn't tolerate that. Like I said, total malarkey, especially because even if the stock PS4 couldn't handle it, they're coming out with a new PS4 specifically. It's kind of more built for VR called the PS4 Neo, and it's a lot is kind of built from the ground up. More, it's got more memory, um, more RAM, a better video output, stuff like that. So, okay, I'll throw you a bone and say that if the original PS4 couldn't handle it, then the PS4 Neo should certainly be able to. You would think. Alright, now that's my personal gripe against that statement. The rest of the gripe toward that statement is the fact that in that same sentence of this article, the people over at Square Enix said, okay, the PS4 isn't going to be able to handle it on 2 discs, so it has to come out episodically to correspond with the hardware. In that same sentence, or in that same chunk, this person from Square Enix proceeds to say that they want to add on to the original game. They want to, because it's an HD remake, want to add things that the original game did not have, which is a completely hypocritical statement of the last statement. Okay, now I'm not gonna judge your intelligence, Square Enix, but if you're worried about the PS4, the hardware, running the game by itself, the base game, why on God's green earth would you even consider adding on to the original game? Why? Why make it episodic? Why not put it on 2 discs? Why do what you're doing? I don't know. That's a question that I've been battling for the last couple months. And the only thing that I can think of is, as one of my friends on my Facebook brought up, was money. Which it hurts to accept, but I have. Because you have to pay for, unless you get the season pass, which I would normally do for episodic games. But you have to pay $5 per episode. I don't know how many episodes Final Fantasy VII is supposed to have, but tack on $5 a piece, or $60 for the whole enchilada, and you know, you've got a cash cow. And I think you have a cash cow regardless, just because it's Final Fantasy VII, so naturally, you know, you're gonna get people's attention. But I mean, you already know that people want to buy your game. That's what I don't understand about video game developers these days, that want to charge us up the butt because they know they can. Yet they'll turn around and say, "Oh, we're by the people for the people," kind of thing, and then they'll turn around and milk the cash cow till it stops, till the well dries up. I don't understand the purpose in that, because you know that a lot of people love Final Fantasy VII. You know a lot of people are excited for Final Fantasy VII. Are they going to be excited for it to be episodically? Probably not. I know I wouldn't. I know that everybody that is either, you know, has played the original Final Fantasy VII on those two discs back in PS1 days, you know, the speedrunners, everybody is gonna want to do that again, just like the Kingdom Hearts remakes. We'll get to that part of it in a while, but you know, they're gonna want to speedrun it. They're gonna want to do it, and they can't, because it's not going to come out. It's not going to be a complete game off the bat. But that's not to say it won't, which is, like I said, another thing that I don't understand. If you're gonna bring the game out on a disc later, which I'm assuming they're going to decide to do because everybody and their mother does that, why, you know, why stretch it out longer than you need to? And like we just touched on, it becomes a money issue. This is a gripe to me because Square Enix, you cannot do, you cannot follow, you cannot copy what indie games do. You cannot copy Telltale Games' formula. And I'm bringing them up because, number one, they're my favorite indie game developer. Number two, they're the ones that use this formula, probably the most that I've seen. You can't do that with big titles. Okay, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and say it probably will work for Hitman. It, you know, there hasn't been a lot of complaints. But a Final Fantasy game is a game that, you know, you can spend hours in. And I almost feel like it's disrespectful in a way, because you're dealing with probably the most, you know, there's what, 15 Final Fantasies now? I think Final Fantasy is older than I am, by far. And you're taking the most respected chapter out of that, and you're chopping it up into little bits. And you're taking away and you're adding things and you're taking away other things just for the sake of money, which I think is utterly disgusting, because, as I said, as a nostalgic person, the original game came out on 2 discs, and I think the remake should too. It would be nostalgic. It would be, you know, you can look back fondly on your childhood or whatever, playing this game and go, you know, Final Fantasy VII, go. And instead you're just kind of making it something it shouldn't. Now, you know, and that's not saying it's going to be a bad game or it's going to be ruined. I think doing that to a Final Fantasy game in general, but a Final Fantasy VII, to do that to a remake is just kind of wrong. It's a very bizarre choice that I just can't stand behind, especially when you say that, you know, the hardware that you're making the game for can't run it, even though the PS4 or the PS1, sorry, did way back in 1997. Explain to me why it can't now. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So it's not really something. I guess all judgment has to be saved until October 15th of this year, because that's when it's said to release. So we'll see what exactly happens. But from afar, I can tell you that I'm not really that impressed. And the reason being is because this is also conflicting with the other side of my rant here, which is Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts 3, more specifically, has been announced for what? 3 years now? And still, we know virtually nothing about it. Back up to E3 again. At the Square Enix conference. Later on in the evening, or later on in the presentation, we got to the Kingdom Hearts block. Now, what made this block so special? What made it the reason why all my friends and I wanted to watch it was because that they promised up and down, all around, they swore that they were going to give us a release date on Kingdom Hearts. Did they? Nope. Instead, they showed us about a 2 to 3 minute teaser trailer, which just, kind of pissed us off because it didn't really tell us anything, and it certainly didn't tell us a release date. And then the bulk of their Kingdom Hearts side of the presentation was their new project, which was Kingdom Hearts X, I believe is what the name was. And it's a browser game. Meaning, it's basically like a flash game that you play on your computer. That's what we waited for. Us, as Kingdom Hearts fans, us as Square Enix fans, waited to see a trailer that said nothing, and a browser game. Now, I've played Kingdom Hearts browser games. Why they exist, or why Square Enix over there decided that they needed to exist, is beyond me, because they're not great. Like I said, they operate as, they're basically a point and click flash game that's in freaking Japanese, so you don't really know what's being said. You just kind of go with the flow, and it's freaking stupid. And that's what we got instead of Kingdom Hearts 3. And we still, almost a year later, have nothing on Kingdom Hearts 3 except speculation on when they are going to come out with the release date and stuff like that. Which is discouraging because we've got to be, I don't know the exact time frame that we've been working in, but at least 3 years. And we still have nothing. And Square Enix has been kind of elusive about it. Which I don't understand why. In saying that, what I'm thinking of is that when, after a while, after Kingdom Hearts had been announced, the voice of Goofy came out and said that, they had finished all the audio, or his part of the audio, and, he was excited and da 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 da, Kingdom Hearts 3, yay. Well, Square Enix made him delete that tweet. So basically, anything spoken from anybody over at Square Enix about Kingdom Hearts 3 has been under wraps for quite some time. And every time they mention a release date or something like that, they just tease us and piss us off. So, fast forward to a couple months ago, they had come out with a stalling point, which was Kingdom Hearts 2.8, another remake, which I'm completely okay with. I like having all uh, the games on a disc and being able to play them, especially because 2.8 has Birth by Sleep Chapter 2 or whatever, another movie thing, and Dream Drop Distance, which is cool because I'm not going to go out and buy a DS just to play it. So it's cool that they're bringing it out on disc. Uh, what's not cool is they don't even have that put together. Okay, the original release date for it was actually back in September of 2015. Didn't happen. Okay, like I was waiting for GameStop to come out with the pre-order thing. I've talked to a couple friends that are really kind of watching Kingdom Hearts, and I'm like, where is it? And they said it got pushed back. Well, a couple weeks ago while I was planning this video, I looked up, when the speculation was, um, and they said anywhere between the release date for 2.8 is anywhere between uh, late December 2016 and early January 2017. Now, if you're not really following what I'm saying, originally when Kingdom Hearts 3 came out, they speculated the release to be in late 2015 to early 2016. So the fact that 2.8, their stalling point, their meat that they're throwing to the tigers to pacify them, is being stalled, which is not good, because if that comes out, if 2.8 comes out holiday season this next time, that means that we are going to have to wait 6 months to a year. That's only my speculation, because I would hope that Square Enix would not think to release 2.8 and 3 close together, because, you're giving us this new remix. We need time to play it. We need time to catch up. So give us time to play Chapter 2, give us time to play DDD, and then, so hopefully, by my calculations, if they do put that 6 month to a year gap, that means that we might not see, if 2.8 comes out when they're speculating it will, this time. That means that we might not see Kingdom Hearts 3 until late 2017 or early 2018, which is completely off the mark. And while I was looking up the expected release date of 2.8, they're taking pre-orders, and I was seriously considering doing it because I don't want to miss the boat on 2.8. I'm excited, I'm ready. But the thing is that with as much as Kingdom Hearts has been played with by Square Enix, as much as it's been teased and poked and prodded and just not being delivered, I don't want to pre-order something and then have to wait, 2 years before I see any results. And so that is the the bulk of my Kingdom Hearts argument and Square Enix. So if you add all that up, the reason why I threw Final Fantasy in there is because it really feels like Square Enix has really dropped the ball and gotten their priorities all in a mess. Because they know how bad we want to see Kingdom Hearts 3. It's been years now, and we still want to see it, and we're questioning whether we ever will. And instead of focusing all their power on that, which they should be doing because that's what we want, they're coming out with a new Hitman out of nowhere, an episodic game. And now they're focusing. Me and my friends made a joke about the fact that they probably have everybody over at Square Enix working on Final Fantasy VII to get that done, and they probably have one lowly staff member working on Kingdom Hearts 3, which is sadly probably true. So I mean, as you can see from Final Fantasy VII to Kingdom Hearts 3, if you agree with the points that I've made, their business decisions are really just not solid. And another thing that I really am having a tough time adjusting to, speaking of business decisions, is the fact that Kingdom Hearts 3, if it gets released, God, I hope so, but when it does, it's no longer going to be a PlayStation exclusive. From day one, Kingdom Hearts has always been a PlayStation exclusive. Until Kingdom Hearts 3 announcement, where they said that they would broaden the audience and bring it to Xbox. Which shouldn't be a problem with me, because I mean, yay, more people get to play Kingdom Hearts, and it's cool that Xbox is picking it up. But if you know Kingdom Hearts, like if you're a diehard Kingdom Hearts player, you know that it's not a game that can just be picked up at any point, and you, as a player, can understand what's going on. You have to play it from 1 to the end to understand the full brunt of the story, which is kind of a problem because, like I said, from the first Kingdom Hearts through the remakes, and Kingdom Hearts 2.8 is also an exclusive. So from Start Point to 2.8, when that comes out, is all PlayStation exclusive. And then there's 3 out here in the gray area where Xbox can get their hands on it. Now, the reason why that's a problem, as I alluded to, is it's not a game that you can just pick up and expect to know what's going on. And, it's either a brilliant business decision, because either one of two things is going to happen when Xbox gets their hand on Kingdom Hearts. They're going to explode and be as happy as everybody else and say, yes, Kingdom Hearts is finally on Xbox One. Awesome. Or people aren't going to care, because I feel like the only Xbox players that are going to give a damn are those that have had a PS2 back in the day or a PS3 and have been able to play Kingdom Hearts. Because if you haven't, you're going to be completely lost, and nothing is going to make any sense, and it's just going to be an utter train wreck. So there again could be a very wise decision or could be a horrible one. I guess we'll have to see. But that's another thing I don't necessarily agree with. To one point. Uh, on another one, you know, PlayStation giving away kind of a poster child for PlayStation is kind of the equivalent of uh, Xbox giving up Gears of War or Halo to PlayStation. It just shouldn't happen. It doesn't feel right. Um, but like I said, it's different circumstances. You can pick up a Gears of War game or a Halo game and kind of get the grip of what's going on, which is no disrespect to them. But the thing about Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts is they have very in-depth, very spiderweb stories throughout all the games, and they're very hard to follow. So the fact that one game out of every game, every Kingdom Hearts game that's come out since 2004 is open to another system just doesn't sound right. As I said, I don't know. Square Enix really needs to figure themselves out. And I'm not necessarily the happiest having to sit back and watch what they're doing to Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts, as I imagine maybe you're either in the group that really doesn't care, or you're like me that is looking at Square Enix and their business decisions and going, "What are you doing?" Uh, and to those people, if you're one of those people that doesn't care, oh well, you're probably not watching this. But if you are, all I can tell you is hang in there, boys and girls. Uh, Kingdom Hearts 3 will come sooner or later. 2.8 will come. Um, the good news is that I'm sure we'll see a lot more Kingdom Hearts activity after uh, October the 15th, which is after Final Fantasy 7 comes out. When that's all said and done, hopefully they'll switch gears and they'll actually uh, come out with Kingdom Hearts stuff. We can hope, we can pray, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Uh, anyway, I think I've made my point. I think I've ranted on enough. Um, I'm feeling winded, feeling a little bit heated up, feeling a little bit a bit dizzy now. So I think that's gonna do it. But until next time, Kingdom Hearts fans, Final Fantasy fans, and who am I forgetting? Oh yeah, the card soldiers. Until next time, soldiers, whether you are a fan or not, I salute you, and remember, we're all mad here.